Steve Gwina Ushla, Fáilte of Galer, hello and welcome. It's Misha Amy. I'm Amy the Crafty Kylock, and today I'm going to be talking about Irish wedding customs and marriage customs. So I'm going to be talking about some pishogues and superstitions around the wedding day, around marriage customs and cultural practices and things like that. And I'm also going to be touching on a couple of misconceptions, like handfasting being an ancient Celtic ritual that's been around for millennia. I might piss some people off with that last one, but stick around, you might learn something. If you're new to my channel, welcome, Fáilte. I create Irish history content, Irish folklore, magic content as well as Irish culture, and I'm going to start doing some DIY and crafty videos as well. So as some of you might know, if you've been following my channel for a while or you've been following my TikTok, you might know that I'm getting married this year in September, to be exact, which is less than 4 months away. And in preparation for that, between starting a new job, starting this YouTube channel, and a whole bunch of other things like planning a wedding, I've been researching Irish wedding customs, and I thought that this might make a fun video and it might be interesting for some people to hear what Irish wedding customs are. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the dress that every bride will obsess over, will think about, will dream about, and how it wasn't always white. In fact, you may or may not know that white wedding dresses were actually popularised by Queen Victoria. Generally in Ireland, when a couple was getting married, they just got a very nice outfit, particularly if they weren't very well off, because having white material, particularly a lot of white material to make a very big fancy dress, was seen as kind of wasteful and also was very decadent. Like, you're not going to be wearing it again, and kind of what is the point? This is kind of something I wish I knew before I bought my dress. I bought my dress before I started researching all this, but I do love my dress and I can't wait to wear it. But in the Irish tradition and on our national folklore collection, Duchas.ie, we have lots and lots of different accounts of the different meanings of different colours of wedding dress or wedding attire for the bride. Now, some of these kind of contradict each other, and as with anything in Irish folklore, there are regional variations around the country, so that probably is why there's so many differences. But a couple of them remain the same. I'll make sure to link all of these in the description below so that you can see them for yourself, but I'll just read some out because I thought it was really interesting how they overlapped and how they had similarities, but they also had different. So an account from County Leitrim says, married in blue, you'll always be true. Married in brown, you'll live near a town. Married in green, ashamed to be seen. Married in black, you'll wish yourself back. Married in yellow, ashamed of your fellow. Married in white, you'll always be right. Married in grey, you'll live far away. Another account in County Cavan says, married in white, you have chosen all right. Married in green, ashamed to be seen. Married in grey, you'll live far away. Married in red, you'll wish yourself dead. Married in blue, love ever true. Married in yellow, ashamed of your fellow. Married in black, you'll wish yourself back. Married in pink, your spirits will sink. Married in brown, you'll live out of town. And married in pearl, you live in a whirl. And then this final one from County Mayo had a lot of the same similar ones that I've just read out from Leitrim and Cavan, but this woman said that married in red is sure to be confined to the bed. Now, it's not explained in that manuscript what exactly she meant by that, whether it was like you're confined to bed because of ailment or for some other maybe more fun reason. But we know red is linked to as the colour of passion, so maybe that's what she meant. So handfasting. Handfasting is, according to the etymological dictionary online, which I will link in the description below, to handfast is a verb that says to betroth two people to bind in wedlock, to pledge oneself to. It comes from early 12th century Old English Handfasting and cognate to Old Norse handfesta, which means to pledge, betroth, strike a bargain by shaking hands. Now, there's many different articles online and I cannot find a reliable actual source for any of this. But there's many different bridal and wedding websites saying that handfasting is an ancient Celtic ritual from 7000 BC or from 9000 BC. It's from 9000 BS if you ask me. Now, I'm not saying that there is 100% no chance that handfasting was an ancient thing. If you have a source on that, I would love to see it. Because quite honestly, the oldest source that we can find of handfasting actually being a documented thing is dating back to around the 1500s in Scotland. I do have an article, which I'll link below, from a publication on JSTOR from 1958, which talks about handfasting becoming a feature of betrothals during the medieval period in Scotland and England, and that it was basically the first section of a nuptial agreement. So we know from Irish lore it was very common for a year and a day to be an initial kind of temporary agreement between two people who would be intending to be married. They would make a year and a day agreement, and then a year and a day later they'll come back and go, okay, are we doing this or we're not doing this? And that's kind of how it went. I'm not sure if people are getting that confused with handfasting, because those two things seem to be linked a lot in these articles that I'm seeing on these bridal websites. But realistically, we don't have any documentation that handfasting is this ancient millennial old thing. So maybe we shouldn't generalize and say that it is. Just my opinion. And like, shaking hands to come to an arrangement isn't just something that was done for nuptials. It just became very popular from the Middle Ages, that would be basically synonymous with an engagement, not even with a wedding or with a marriage. And the second part of that marriage agreement was the handing over of the bride, which is where you have the father of the bride giving away his daughter in an agreement that probably also consisted of a dowry of some type, or land, or an allegiance, or something like that. Irregardless of whether it is an ancient thing or not, it's something that's very lovely and symbolic and is done quite a lot, and is getting a lot more popular as well now that there's less marriages and weddings happening inside churches, and there's more humanist weddings happening and also pagan weddings happening. So it's a very nice sentiment, just not 9,000 years old. Another old custom that I found on Duchas.ie was the Strawboys. And basically, these were wedding crashers. They were a group of young boys, generally from the area where the wedding was happening, and in the times that this would have happened, it was very customary for a wedding breakfast to take place in the bride's home on the morning of the wedding. For the bride and groom, as far as I can tell from all of these accounts, would travel to the church together, get married, and then go back to the groom's parents' house and have a feast and a party there. And generally, a bit later in the evening, the Strawboys would crash the wedding. Now, as I said, these were usually young boys from around the same region or the same town, or maybe a neighbouring town, who would hear that a wedding was going on, but they weren't specifically invited. And they were called Strawboys because they would basically create these masks made of straw and go to the wedding, go to the party, and basically demand to be let in. And if they were refused hospitality, they would basically play tricks on the newly married couple, and generally people let them in so that they didn't play tricks on them. Sometimes there would be two factions of Strawboys, so two different groups of Strawboys who would arrive at the same wedding and basically have to kind of fight it out for who got rights to be at the wedding. They would dance and sing, they might bring some musical instruments. Typically, they all dressed in white, according to this account from Mayo, and they would arrive around about 8 o'clock in the evening, kind of after the feasting had done. Their leader was called the captain, and the captain typically went and danced with the bride, and then the captain's wife would go and dance with the groom. Another account on Duchas says that they usually came in groups of 8 or 10, and then that they would go home at about 3 o'clock in the morning once they'd been all married out, basically. The Child of Prague is another tradition that's seen in the Irish tradition and still is very much a living tradition to this day. And what the Child of Prague is basically a small statue of the Infant of Prague, which is supposed to be a depiction of the baby Jesus or young Jesus. And it's this little statue about this big, or you can get them in various different sizes. He's wearing red and gold robes, and he's basically supposed to bring you good luck in terms of weather on your wedding day. So there's various different ways, methods, folklore, beliefs around what you should do with the statue. It's typically also believed that having a headless statue is better than one with a head still attached onto it. Now, I couldn't actually find anything on Duchas regarding this, which was a little bit disappointing. Well, I couldn't find anything on Duchas in terms of weddings and the Child of Prague. I did, however, find one account from Cork saying that the Infant of Prague is kept in a house, and under the statue that you're to put a small coin like an offering. And it said that if you do this, you would never be short of money. And another account from Dublin says that if you put a threepenny bit behind the picture of the Child of Prague, that no sickness will come into your house. But nothing about weddings and nothing about weather. One Fab Day, which is an Irish wedding website, has an article which I'll link in the description below, which gives a bunch of different beliefs around the Child of Prague and what you should do with it for your wedding day, including that the statue should be placed in a garden under the bush, particularly the bride's garden, or the house where maybe the couple are living, because we're in the 21st century and people tend to live with each other before they get married now. That he should be placed in the garden facing the house, facing away from the house. He should be buried upside down. He should be placed outside the church or wherever you're getting married. He should be left in the hallway of the bride's house with a coin and some paper money left under it for an offering. His head should be broken off at the neck, and it's okay to force it off with your hands by smashing it off a hard object. And another one that says the statue must be a gift to work. I don't know. I don't personally have a Child of Prague statue. I'm pretty sure my granny has one, and if not, I have a friend who has 4 of them in their grandmother's house. So I think we're well covered in terms of weather for the wedding. Also, statistically, we did pick the best month, or the driest month in Ireland to get married, so fingers crossed we don't get any rain. As well as all those other superstitions that I've gone through, there are superstitions around getting married at certain times of the year and on certain days of the week. According to Bridgie Moyles in County Mayo, it was Monday for health, Tuesday for wealth, Wednesday the worst day of all, Thursday for losses, Fridays for crosses, and Saturday is no luck at all, and Sunday is the best day of all. But I did see a lot of conflicting information around the best days of the week to get married, with some people saying that Sunday was the worst day. And again, like a lot of things in Irish folklore and the Irish tradition, it's very regionally based, and sometimes even your specific family could have a tradition. What did seem to be quite agreed upon throughout all the Duchas records that I read was that there was no marrying during the Lenten period, which is a period of fasting in the Christian tradition. And one account on Duchas says that some years ago, as a rule, no marriages were in Lent. From the 6th of January, which is Little Christmas, to Ash Wednesday, was the principal time of the year to get married. So you had to get married during the Shrove period, which was that period between the 6th of January and Shrove Tuesday, which is the day before Ash Wednesday. We also call it Pancake Day now. And I also think it's Mardi Gras in South America, I'm pretty sure. Now, in very true Irish tradition, I found this very, very funny, that the rule at the time says that the boy would ask the girl by sending some friend of his to the girl's house, and after that they would make the match and arrange a wedding day. Very much with this I'm getting will you marry my friend vibes. There's lots of accounts as well on Duchas of there being a rush of weddings taking place before Shrove Tuesday, and that after Shrove Tuesday no marriages took place for 7 weeks during Lent. June is the month of the roses, which is said to be the luckiest month of all. But if you can't get married during the summer, November and December were the next luckiest months. Now, it's very possible that because of the kind of agricultural calendar of the year as well, that had a lot to play in with when people got married, and that maybe came down through the generations as well. Because when you're coming into August, which is Lunasa, and September, which is Manfor, and Derifor, which is October, that's kind of your harvest season, so a lot of work would be being done. So you'd probably either want to be married before or after that, but not really during it when you're having a lot of work done, because planning a wedding is stressful stuff. This account from County Waterford, which I'm going to read out, gave local marriage customs and says that marriages most frequently take place during Shrove. Shrove commences on the 7th of January and ends on the day before Ash Wednesday, or Shrove Tuesday, as I've already said. Wednesdays and Fridays and the month of January are not lucky for marriage. Very few matches are made in our district. Money is given as a dowry, and long ago stock of goods was also given. My grandmother told me she remembered marriage taking place in the houses. The priest used to come to a house to marry the pair, and on that morning mass was celebrated in the bride's house. The bride and the neighbours attended at this mass, and it was usual for the bride not to come back to her parents' house for a month after the marriage because it was considered unlucky. Now, I have seen some things about the month following the wedding being like a honeymoon month, where the bride and groom would basically be locked away together for a whole month, but I haven't been able to actually find anything on that concrete as of yet. And then there was lots of other random superstitions and traditions that I found, which I thought were really interesting. So one account on Duchas says long ago they would not come back the same road from the church as when they would be going to get married. Another one says that people would make oaten bread and break it over the bride's head as she comes through the door, and it's lucky to break something at a wedding. I did find other sources and accounts which said it was unlucky to break something at a wedding. I also found some accounts about the wedding cake, and that if they are going back to the groom's house after the wedding ceremony and they are having the feast there, that the groom's mother, if she's still alive, should break the wedding cake over the bride's head. Now, I'm not sure whether she just breaks it like by holding it over the head or actually breaks it off her head, which would make sense, I suppose, in the tradition of people smashing cake into each other's faces at weddings. But anyway, she was supposed to break the cake off her new daughter-in-law's head, and that would mean they wouldn't have any fights or they wouldn't have any issues going forward, because she would be moving into her mother-in-law's house. And then if there was no mother-in-law in the picture, the bride should cut up the cake and give a piece to everybody. Also, another custom that my granny actually mentioned to me a good while ago was that you get a piece of the wedding cake and you go home with it, and if you're single, you put it under your pillow at night and you're supposed to dream of your future partner. Another variation that I found on that particular one as well, which was that many of the grown-up boys and girls save a bit of the wedding cake and gets the bride to pass it through her marriage ring, because this is a superstition that if they put a piece of wedding cake which has been passed through the ring under their pillows at night, that they will dream of their future wife or husband. I think that's really interesting. And also I again couldn't find this, but something my family did when I got engaged was they each took my engagement ring and spun it on their ring finger 3 times towards them while making a wish, and that's supposed to be quite lucky as well, but you have to specifically spin the ring towards you. It's supposed to be very unlucky to get a wet wedding day. If it is wet in the morning, it's supposed to be unlucky for the groom, and if it's wet in the evening, it's supposed to be unlucky for the bride. In terms of the bride getting dressed on the morning of the wedding, it's supposed to be very unlucky to, first of all, try on your wedding dress before your wedding day, but this is going back to a time when people would be getting the clothes made for them, maybe a family member or a local seamstress or the local person that would have done this work would have made the garment or the rig out for them. But nowadays you are going to try on dresses, you're getting them altered, etc. That custom has very much, I think, gone out the window. But there are customs that I would like to incorporate on my day as kind of a nod to the older traditions. So one of them is, if you look in the mirror when you're fully dressed in everything, that's supposed to be unlucky. So I might try and counteract that by not putting on my shoes until I'm basically ready to go out the door. It's also really interesting, I think, because a lot of brides don't put on their veil until they're pretty much ready to go out the door as well, or so I've seen from various wedding shows that I may or may not be watching. Apparently it's also very lucky to be a bride that the sun shines on, but if the sun isn't shining, that's okay. All you have to do is circle your heart 3 times with your left hand, and that undoes any unluckiness of not having sunshine on you on the morning of your wedding. It's also very fortunate to hear a bird song on the morning of your wedding. When you're leaving your house, you should step out with your left foot because that's more lucky. And once you leave the house, you're not allowed to turn back for anything. And this particular one also says that if you're 3 times a bridesmaid, you'll never be a bride. And that a girl who's a bridesmaid to her younger sister's wedding should wear a green garter on her leg for good luck. Even in the accounts that I was reading on Duchas, you can very much see the change in traditions, even back in the 1930s when these would have been documented, and some traditions showing a move from weddings taking place in the home to weddings taking place in churches, and then the reception in a hotel, which is what we would be very much used to seeing nowadays. There's also the old tradition of something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, which was popularized in the Victorian era, around the time white wedding dresses were popularized. But an extra bit I saw on that was something old, something new, something borrowed, something blue, a penny for his pocket, and a 6pence for her shoe. Now, I've seen a 6pence for her shoe quite a few times on different wedding websites and different articles, but the penny for his pocket was something I actually couldn't find on Duchas. And I was trying to find where it came from. What I did find was a lot of different records talking about having a penny for your pocket or not having a penny for your pocket. And I think it has the same kind of meaning as having the 6pence for your shoe, and also using the wedding coin, which is a very old tradition as well in Irish weddings, where you'd have a silver coin that would generally be passed from the groom to the bride. And nowadays you tend to have both of them having some kind of silver wedding present that they exchange instead, kind of with a view or past remembrance to the silver coin. But the penny for your pocket and the 6pence for your shoe is really so you're going into the marriage with some kind of prosperity. A lot of the penny for your pocket or penny in my pocket references that I was finding on Duchas were referencing, oh, I don't even have a penny for my pocket, or put the penny in your pocket for luck. So again, it's really just about bringing luck to you on your wedding day. So Sinead, that's it for wedding customs and this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I do realise as well, a lot of these were very gender binary and being bride and groom, when obviously today in Ireland we have same-sex marriage and marriage equality. And while everything is not exactly equal in that department in terms of same-sex parents and same-sex families, we have come a long way from the 1930s when a lot of these records would have been taken. And while a lot of these traditions aren't being brought on to new generations, I think some of them are very nice, and I will be incorporating some of them on my wedding day. And I'd like to hear from you. If you had an old family tradition, an Irish tradition that you had on your wedding day, please let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear them. I'm always interested in hearing old customs and also what you're bringing in from family traditions. It's just really interesting to me and I would love to hear it. Also, if you have been following me for a time, I did take an impromptu 2.5 week hiatus there. I had some things I needed to deal with in my real life, and also I just needed to take a bit of a break. I had taken on a little bit too much and things have evened out now. So I hope to be bringing more regular content. I have a lot of content planned. I actually have a crafting video that's coming up very soon, maybe later this week, which is something I'm really excited about. I'm learning to weave at the moment for the wedding and for making a kris, which is a traditional Irish belt for our handfasting ceremony. So more on that later. But if you are liking the videos, please like and subscribe, share if you like as well. Or if you know somebody getting married who would maybe like to incorporate some of these traditions into their wedding day. Also, if you'd like to support my channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee on coffee.com. I'll put the link down in the description. I'm hoping to actually get some proper equipment to do some recording and some outside vlogging, like a mic so you can hear me if I'm going out in the open and not in my room. And also you might have noticed that I have changed up how I do my videos. I got some new software for editing videos, which I'm really excited about, to maybe hopefully bring a more polished look and be able to do more diverse types of content as well. So Gurb Míle Mágad, thanks for watching. Agus Slán go fóill. I will see you soon.